Hey guys, welcome to another build video. Today we are going to be building the Airfix Supermarine Seafire Mark 17. Without spoiling too much, this was a very fun build and my best looking model yet. This kit of the Seafire is in 1/48 scale, which is the perfect size for these World War II aeroplanes in my opinion, because it allows you to pack the model with detail whilst not taking up too much space to display. On the subject of detail, I've got a surprise coming soon in the video. This Seafire is based on the Spitfire Mark 15, if I recall correctly, and it looks stunning in the Royal Navy colours, and I cannot wait to show you guys at the end. We're starting this build off by building up the control column. As you see, everything fits nicely together. The detail is pretty nice. As you can see from the video, I'm giving everything a coat of Tamiya XF71 Cockpit green, followed up by masking the bottom section and painting the top half in black. This was to reduce the glare if I'm not mistaken. Removing the masks shows us some really nice crisp lines. Here I'm going to be painting up some of the details. Here we've got the rudder pedals. I believe I'm using either Tamiya silver or Vallejo silver. It might be Vallejo. I made sure to also paint up the actual flight stick at the top, and we'll be getting some more detail in a minute. And here is that surprise. I got a set of Eduard 3D decals and a photo etch set. This was always came in the same packaging. It was all great. Had to remove the instrument panel, which was very detailed to be honest. And just yeah, look at that. That is absolutely stunning. Eduard, I will definitely be getting some of these again. I just love the way it looks. And there are the photo etch seat belts. I was having some struggles with the super glue here, but it was alright. Some more cockpit detail, again, very nice, very happy with these, and I will definitely be buying them again. Here is a new weathering product for me, which is the new Ammo MiG Missing Link. These are water-based weathering products, and they are very interesting to use. On this build I use them for the cockpit, and yeah, you can see the bottom half has it, the top half doesn't. Yeah, they look pretty good. I'll be using those again. Here I'm painting up a couple more details onto the control column just to, you know, add realism, which is something I love to do, as you'll see in this video. Here we're doing some simple sponge chipping, again, so effective, yet so simple. As you can see, it really does make it look like the cockpit has been lived in. And here is the seat as well, looking amazing, and the control column, everything is looking very nice. I am very happy with the purchase of the Eduard stuff. And here we're already cementing in the instrument panel and the control column into the left side of the fuselage. Fit overall was actually pretty good. Actually, this is the right side of the fuselage, my bad. And we have the seat on the other side. I think the instructions and fit in general, yeah, everything is very clear, very easy to understand. They don't ever get stuck on anything, and yeah, you can see everything fits up nicely. There is a small gap at the front, but I'll sort that out by using these clamps and the Tamiya cement, and that worked really nicely. Here we are drilling out some holes. I opted to go for the version that has I believe they're not drop tanks. You have like the tanks that just stay on. You can tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'd be really happy to know. So yeah, we just had to drill those out, and now I'm going to be spraying some of that cockpit interior green into the sections that you might be able to see from outside. Realistically, you're only seeing the small section of the wheel wells, which should be sky, and I correct that later in the build. And here I am closing up the wings, making sure everything fits together, and yeah, as I mentioned, everything does fit very nicely on this kit. Putting on the fuselage, everything was alright, just needed a little bit of that Tamiya cement, and yeah, beautiful fit. Here I am making sure that the seams of the wings are nice. I'm sorry that you can't really see that. There is a bit of a raised edge, but you know, I've got my ammo sanding stick, which I absolutely love, and it will make it all nice and smooth, just like that. Here, this aircraft did have the Griffin engine, which has those kind of like extra pieces on the top. Again, I'm not quite sure what those are. It might be extra space for the pistons, but please do let me know. This piece, very small, very fragile. However, surprisingly, I did not break this off once during the build, so yeah, quite happy about that, and also quite rare. Here we have the distinctive hook of the Seafire. Essentially works like the hooks that we have nowadays, but an earlier version. This piece here, I believe, is an intake that goes at the front of the aircraft. It does leave a seam down the middle, however, with some Tamiya cement and then sanding, you get rid of that. The ejector pin marks that you see here, I do get rid of those, as you can see. However, realistically, I don't know how visible that is in the final build, but you know, modelers, we end up doing this stuff. It's all peace of mind at the end of the day, and I was quite happy to do it. Here it goes in. You can see I kind of got rid of the seam. It looks like there is a tiny bit, but I promise you that is smooth, as you'll be able to see from the final build. My glue of choice, as you've been able to tell, is Tamiya cement. Putting in these, I believe these would be radiators. Again, fit is very nice, and this is the drop tanks, not drop tanks, that I was drilling for. Again, fit, very perfect. They do have a slight mold line through the middle, which again, I sorted out, but very simple. Here we have the cannons, putting those in, very straightforward, those fit nicely, very snug, you can't go wrong. We have this, I guess it's a backrest for the, well, not really a backrest, it's like a support. Here we have a bit of an ugly seam, but we sorted out with some Mr. Putty here, and I really like using this stuff. You can get to sanding it, I'd say, within like half an hour, and yeah, there you go, sorted out that join, and you cannot see it in the final build. Here we are applying our first external paint with C333. This is the extra dark sea grey that I've used for this build. At first, I thought it was a bit too dark and a bit too, yeah, just dark. However, in the final build, yeah, no, it's great. But as you can see here, it's very hard to distinguish from the dark plastic itself. And every modeler's favorite part of the build, unmasking. Here, it was taking me a while. This time, your tape is very strong, but I guess that's a good thing. Here I am, again, using the Tamiya tape. I'm going to be using a toothpick to make the edges of the canopy, and here I'm then just going to be cutting them out. I didn't buy any masks, I didn't need to. The raised edges are raised enough that you can do this very cleanly, as you see. Using some liquid mask, I'll be covering up the, I believe those are identification lights. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong. I did do some research on this plane because I was very interested in it, but yeah. Here, very, very easy trick to open up the exhaust and make them look literally like 10 times better. I got inspired by this trick off of a video by Luke from Mac Models, which I'll link his channel in the description. He did this for his Seafire video, and I thought it was great. Really adds to detail, so props to him for that idea. Here we are. I'm going to be using the spare canopy. Since there are two, I'm going to display it open. I'm going to be using that one as a mask. Here you can see I'm applying Gaahleri's primer. Gaahleri did send this out to me for review, and I am extremely happy with it. As you can see, it works perfectly fine in my opinion. It is acrylic based, and it's odorless. Over here, I'm going to be doing some mottling. This is the first time I've done mottling to this extent, via pre-shading. I am very happy I did this, and you'll see later on why. I absolutely loved doing this. I've seen many people do it, and I thought it was my time to try it out, and yeah, absolutely loved it. The effect it gives really helps to make the paint of the plane seem stressed and used, and especially this being a Navy aircraft, it would have been quite used. Here I'm going over with some Tamiya buff. This is to give a bit more variation of maybe replaced panels where they might have a lighter color, or I guess darker in this case. Doing the same thing here, but this instead with Tamiya blue. And here it is. It looks very interesting here, but trust me, this gives a very nice effect in the end. Everything that has been sprayed here has been sprayed using Gaahleri's airbrushes, specifically the Mobius 0.2. Beautiful airbrush. If you want to pick one up, you can use the link in the description, and you can also get 10% off with that. Here we are finally applying one of the base coats, which is the extra dark sea grey. Again, it will take a while for this colour to build up, but that's also intentional because I don't want to lose all of the mottling work that I've just done. I want to make sure that that comes through, and yeah, you can kind of start seeing it on the left wing there. It just really helps convey that this is paint that has worn over time. Here we are now with the famous sky color. Finding the right shade for this felt impossible because of everybody was suggesting different colors, and I ended up going with this one by Mr. Color. I think it looks great. It looks quite accurate to the references that I was using, and yeah, I'm very pleased with it. I'll be leaving all of the products I used in the description as well, in case you guys want to follow along with the build. You can already start seeing how that color modulation with the mottling has been coming through. It's really helping to add an effect, and I know I keep going on about this, but I really think this is something that you should try at least once and see if you like doing it, because in my case I really enjoyed doing it, and I think that the effect that it gives to your model is great. It really adds a layer of detail, and I'm extremely happy that I did it. Here I'm coming in with the same sky color, however with a drop of white in it. This is to lighten it. Again, this is to make it look like the panels may have been replaced or anything really. And here we are doing some demasking again. Here, first time that I was peeling off the masks. Very scary process, honestly. If the paint peeled up, I'd have been very sad. But luckily, you know, I must have been quite lucky and none of that happened. And yeah, look at that, beautiful crisp lines. Extremely happy with how that came out. Now we have the iconic red cone, the front cone for the propeller. Absolutely beautiful. I loved painting this up. It came out in this beautiful glossy red finish, which I really would have liked to keep. However, you know, I wasn't making one fresh out of the factory. I was making a used plane, so yeah. To paint up the exhausts, I decided to dry brush them, and I think this gave a really good effect of making it look like they were being used. And you can see the difference there. That's in just primer, and that's painted on the left with the dry brushing technique. Here we're doing a little bit more sponge chipping on the propeller fins. This again helps convey used. Here I'm applying Gaahleri's gloss coat across the whole aircraft. This is to get me ready for decals. There were not too many decals, however I can say that they were very nice to use, so props to Airfix for that. I believe these might be cartograph decals, and you know, as per usual with cartograph, they are very well made, and I was very happy to use them. None of them tore. Some of them sometimes folded, but I always managed to unfold them without too much stress. Positioning wise, it was alright. There were some like extra panel lines on the scheme, so it was a bit hard. I'm using my usual process here of micro set and then micro sol. It just helps to really, I guess it kind of melts the decals into the panel lines and everything and the recesses, and it really helps convey, making them look like they are painted on. Here I am trying to make a oil spill that I saw from a reference image that you can see at the top left. Let's just say this was a complete fail for two reasons. First of all, the oil I was using was just really weird. It was a fuel stain one and it just didn't look right. I got rid of that and then realized, oh wait, I didn't do a panel line wash yet. So I'm doing that. And here you go, you know, it's your usual procedure with watered down oil paint. I'm using, I believe it was like a dark green for the sky areas, and I'm rubbing it off with a tissue. I did add a tiny bit of white spirit, but I believe for the rest of it I didn't. Here I'm using a sky grey panel line wash. This is on top of the extra dark sea grey. Well, mostly because a dark wash won't really come up on a dark color. Here I'm doing some more weathering. Again, I'm not really using the correct technique. However, I'll address that later by correcting that mistake. Using Tamiya palettes, absolutely love this to add the exhaust stains, and then here I'm adding the I guess you could say the gunpowder staining and streaking. Again, really enjoyed this process, and the exhausts I believe came out pretty well. You know, I have seen better, and I am by no means the best. I am absolutely not the best, actually. But I tried my best, and I think it came out alright. Over here, I'm using the brush side to kind of feather the effect and make it look a bit more realistic, and in the end, I think I achieved a pretty nice look. Here, I'm going to be using a silver to do some more sponge chipping, and this is going to be on the areas of the aircraft that would have been walked on quite frequently, and so the paint would chip. It's quite light right now, however I'm going to be adding a lot more onto the left side, which would be where the pilot climbs up and into the aircraft. On the real planes, these areas would have been extremely kind of chipped, especially after being used for a while. Here I am using one of the oil brushes, paints, and this is mostly just for some like oil streaking and grime. Again, I'm still not really using the correct technique, but it's better than before. However, you'll see shortly I did go out and buy some oil paints. This is how the weathering looked before the oil paints. It was okay, but I was not satisfied. With the oil paints, here we go. These were perfect. I believe I was using here burnt umber. I let them dry out a little bit on the cardboard, as you saw, and then here I'm streaking the back with a dry brush. And the effect that this gave, absolutely stunning. Absolutely loved it. I do need to refine my techniques, but this was my first time doing it, and I really enjoyed doing it. Here I'm adding some more engine oil, which would be darker. Is it super correct? I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's fine. Here is the cartridge ejection for the shells, and here I'm doing a little bit more stippling. Instead of with the sponge, I decided to stipple with a small brush, and I found that this actually was quite good for the effect I was going for. Here I'm doing some small scratches. I wish I had the pencils. I think it would have made this much easier and slightly more realistic. But with this small brush, I was quite satisfied with all the scratches I got on, and it looked quite good. I'd like to take a moment to ask you guys if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel. It really helps out, and if you do enjoy scale modeling, then I think this is a great channel to subscribe to. There's going to be lots of content coming in the future, and if you have any suggestions for things you would like to see, please do comment them down below. Here is all the scratches and all of those weathering effects done. And yeah, much happier with this result over the original, and you can see the underside there, really, yeah, much better, much more realistic, and I'm very happy with how this came out. Right, the landing gear. I tried installing this with super glue, ultra glue, and it just wasn't working, so I slathered it with Tamiya cement, and that's what I should have done since the start, to be honest. It works perfectly, as it always does. We have the exhausts. Here I did use ultra glue, but it actually worked really well. Here I'm applying the propeller to the front. I used Tamiya cement for that, dried very quickly. And here we are now applying a matte coat, and everything is now looking absolutely amazing. Adding the final details to the plane with some pitot tubes, I believe, and the things at the back there were for the cables. Here we have the other canopy, which I'll be using, and this one came out very nicely as well. Removing the masks, very satisfying. Also quite stressful because I just wanted to make sure there wasn't really any paint bleed and any scratches and whatnot on the canopy. I did have a slight fingerprint, which is barely noticeable. I'm not sure how I got that on there and when I got it on there, but I'm happy that you can't notice it too much on the final build. And yeah, there is the canopy. And now, removing this one, I did install it with ultra glue, so it comes off very nice and easy. And seeing the cockpit for the first time in a while was great. It had been covered up for about a month, and I was quite lazy with this model, also kind of doing other stuff. Removing these final masks, very satisfying, very happy. Everything is looking great, and here we are. Here it is, the Airfix Seafire in 1/48 scale. Absolutely love this model, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy, do drop a like, and enjoy some shots of the plane in all its glory. I'll catch you guys in the next one.